Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I am Devin Klein, your host, and I am here with a whole panel of guests today for a very special episode. It is that time of the year, everybody. Not that we don't partner all year round, but one time a year we have the Be Their Muscle campaign here at Burn Bootcamp with the MDA, and we've done this for years running now. It has been a very successful campaign. We've been able to raise millions of dollars toward the fight to neuromuscular disease, through our partnership, the MDA, and myself, Morgan, and the Burn Bootcamp team. We go way back. It started, back in Naples, Florida, in 2015, when I was standing in a 7-Eleven gas station, and I saw an MDA flyer, and I looked over across the street, and the flyer was for the event that was actually going on that day, and I just got to witness, a handful of kids at the time, and I looked over, they were just in their wheelchairs, and they were having so much fun, and I remember, at the time, Morgan and I also were, really looking for a cause that was something that was bigger than us that we could really support. And, that term Be Their Muscle came into our mind right away as soon as we started talking about it. And from there, it was a no-brainer. We've had a relationship, every year we've done either the, there's a handful of events, but the Be Their Muscle event is definitely the event we've put on together. And then we've done a couple things here in Charlotte. We walked around the Charlotte Motor Speedway together for their Be Their Muscle, or their walk. What do they call that, Lily, again? The muscle walk. Yes, the muscle walk. And, everything in between, from the national fundraising events here in Charlotte and everything else. So we have an amazing panel of guests today. Okay, you guys are in for a treat because this year we're taking it to the next level. Okay, we're taking it to the next level. Last year's MDA event was in Washington, D.C. at the National Mall, and we have the franchise partner in-house today here, Lindsay Treadway, who set that up. This year we're going to be under the arches in St. Louis for the Be Their Muscle event, and we are looking to reach our goal of raising $1 million. We've been close before. Collectively, it's over $3 million, roughly. But this year, we got to get that $1 million mark in a single event. That's what we're going for. So, without further ado, I'm going to let the people in-house here who are on our panel, I'm going to let them do a quick introduction, and then we're going to do a quick intro of our guests who are actually online coming in. We have a very special guest. I want you guys to go anywhere, okay? One of the best NFL kickers of all time, Jay Feely. It's been huge in the MDA for a very long time. He's not only one of the best kickers, but I don't think I can find another guy in the NFL who is more philanthropic than he is being. I think you'll have to correct me on this, but I believe a 3-time Walter Payton Man of the Year on 3 different teams. I'm not sure if there's anybody that's ever done that before, but we're going to introduce everybody here. We've got 6 guests, okay, guys? So why don't you take a moment? We'll start with you, Lindsay Treadway, to go ahead and introduce yourself. We'll move right on the line, and we'll go ahead and I'll do the intros for the guests online, and we'll bring Jay right in.
All right, I'm Lindsay Treadway. I'm a franchise partner for Burn Bootcamp Herndon currently, and then I'll opening 2 more locations actually in Ohio, hopefully this year and next year. I've been a part of the MDA events for the past 10 years, whether as a member or a franchise partner, and it's always amazing to see the community impact that this event has every year.
Lily.
Hi, my name is Lily Sander. I am MDA National Ambassador, and I live with neuromuscular disease.
You are the brand new National Ambassador.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that, by the way. Everybody was introduced to you last year during the podcast, and you were really the face of the Be Their Muscle campaign. We're so excited to, Morgan and I are really excited to have built a relationship with you and with your family. But more importantly, I think that Burn Nation gets to now build a relationship with you. So thanks for being back here, Lily?
Yeah, I'm excited. I believe this is year 3
Year 3.
for
You're right.
me. Yeah.
You're right.
So
Yeah, you are
many
right.
more to come.
All right. Mark.
I'm Mark Davis. I'm VP of Finance at Burn HQ. Just started in September of 2024, so it's my first Be There Muscle campaign. I'm really excited to be a part of it, and I'll be out in St. Louis for the event.
Well, thank you, Mark, Lily, and Lindsay. And listen, I already mentioned that we're going to bring Jay in here momentarily. We also have Dr. Sharon Hesterly, who is going to be a part of the podcast again this year for the second year in a row. She's been the chief research officer at the MDA for over 5 years now. Okay, and she specializes in gene therapy, emerging therapies for neuromuscular disease, and clinical trials. And she is our resident, like all things science expert when we talk about neuromuscular disease and chasing the cause. And we also have Grace here. Grace Lopiccolo is a junior at St. Louis University studying bioethics with hopes of going into health and disability law in order to advocate and fight for a more accessible world. She also has been a camper at the MDA summer camps for 3 times, an MDA ambassador for most of her life, and is even a member at Burn Manchester. So welcome to the panel today. We're going to have a really great discussion, and we're going to kick the discussion off with some questions for Mr. Jay Feely. So why don't we bring in Mr. Jay Feely? As a former NFL kicker, spent 14 years in the league, and currently is a broadcaster for CBS. You guys have seen Jay on CBS Sports, longtime supporter and volunteer of the MDA, and like I mentioned, a legendary kicker. I think you actually had a game where you scored like 25 points, which is like unheard of and so rare for a kicker to do so. Maybe you can touch on that just as some entertainment for the folks as you bring in your experience with MDA, why MDA is important for you, and really, what brought you, here into this environment today for the podcast.
I really applaud everybody, that's a part of this Be There Muscle program and what you guys are doing. And when you do something like this, you don't sometimes see the tangible impact you have. But being around MDA basically my whole life since I was 15 years old, and seeing the impact that you can have not only through the research that's done and all the awesome work that Dr. Sharon and others are doing to try to help patients with muscular dystrophy live longer and live better and fuller lives, but also just simple things like the summer camp that I've been involved in. And you see the tangible impact. So congratulations on what you guys are doing, because it's awesome. It really is. And, for me, I had a brother who was in a wheelchair his whole life. He didn't have muscular dystrophy, but it led me to want to get involved early. And when I was 16 years old, my high school had a tradition of going to summer camp. There was an awesome teacher and coach there. Was my football coach, and he brought about 50 guys to summer camp in Florida. And I went when I was 16. I think the age limit's a little older now, but back then it wasn't. So I was able to go at 16 and be a camp counselor. And, you saw firsthand just how a little bit of effort in 1 week for a lot of these campers, it's their favorite week of the year. It's the 1 week where they're free from all the inhibitions that this disease places on them. They can be a normal kid. They can do sports. They can swim. I remember taking the boys and getting in the pool and just throwing them around and almost roughhousing with them, and them just loving the fact that they could just be a boy and be, roughed around with and fly around the pool. And then we'd go into the gym and play basketball, wheelchair basketball. And these kids are banging wheelchairs and having a blast. And it was just a week where they didn't have to think about muscular dystrophy, and they were just like everyone else. And, my wife, when I met her, she came and we did the dance at camp, and, to be there with these kids and whether it was arts or sports or in the pool or the dance, they just were able to have an absolutely unbelievable time for that week. And it's so special to them. And it was really special for me to be a part of that for a number of years.
Yeah, Jay, I really want to touch on what you said there, because it's one thing as a philanthropist to give dollars, and then it's another to actually put your hands on the summer camps and to be in there and throwing kids around the pool. And Mark, you were telling me the other day your son is joining a wheelchair basketball league, and how important it is to be involved in that. And that's what we try to do it here at Burn, is when we're raising money for the cause and the cures and the things that we can't really get our hands on. All the stuff that Dr. Sharon is really overseeing and making sure that work or that money goes to good work. But to send kids to summer camp, it's expensive. for families to do so. And, what, about $4,000 last time I checked to send a single kid to summer camp, and so to be able to do that and give families the opportunity who wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise, shows strength in community. And being a part of NFL teams your whole life, and I think you said 3 teams in which you were Walter Payton Man of the Year for that team, to represent that team, to go against the other teams. How does the strength of team overall, the strength of philanthropy come together in your eyes here at, with Burn and what the MDA is doing and bringing your attention and awareness into the fold? How do we team up from here forward to continue to make these children and their families' lives more wonderful?
Well, I think the best teams I was on, they had a couple of things in common. They were unselfish. They understood their roles, and they went and you tried to do your role the best you could. If I was a kicker, I couldn't do anything to help the offense, but I could go out there and try to perform my role the best and be a good teammate and support my teammates. And you had guys in the front office, you had coaches, you had a lot of different people doing so many different things. And the best organizations have everybody committed to a single cause. I think that's exactly what Muscular Dystrophy Association does. You have doctors doing the research. You have people out raising the money and the funds for the research and for camp and to support those families. You have people day to day helping those families and the people with muscular dystrophy try to live their lives better, understand what problems they're having and trying to find answers for those problems. And then you have people like you guys that are doing these unbelievable fundraisers, raising the money so that all those other things can get done. And I think collectively, I think we have to try to help people understand what muscular dystrophy is, how it's getting better, the successes that we've had in the research and the day-to-day lives for people with muscular dystrophy, and then how they can get involved. I think that's what's so important about doing your podcast. So great job for doing that.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you, Jay. And do you guys here in the studio have any questions for Jay before I continue? Hey, think about it. I'll keep you in the hole in case you do. Okay. So
Jay,
him
on the spot.
Yeah, we did say I did tell him I was going to put him on the spot at some point in time. So, I just want to make sure, Jay, that we here are able to, tap into your passion for this, because you're clearly so passionate about it, and you're driven by the story with your brother. It's been close to you, right? And some of the biggest challenges that families face, the kind of the normal everyday problems, are nothing in comparison to some of the issues that are faced when you have to now, have one of your family members, let's just say, for example, be in a wheelchair, and then most people don't realize the van that has to, actually be wheelchair accessible, and all the house and how it has to be modified. So, as you see some of these challenges out here, what has really inspired you to continue your fight for so long? You have your own story, maybe an example of a family you've gotten close with through this process.
Well, there was a lot of them, and a lot of times, we were dealing with Duchenne's. A lot of the patients had Duchenne's, and you get to know them, and you get back to camp. It's been a year since you've seen them, or maybe you saw them one time during the year, and so it's catching up and hearing about their lives. And the sad part a lot of times about going to camp is you see that progression downward. They start when they're a young kid and they're running around and they're not in a wheelchair yet, and then they're in a wheelchair, and then progressively gets worse. And going to some of the funerals was really hard, and watching them, watching these parents and how sad they were. I met a man when I was in New York. I was playing for the Giants, and I went to the big gala in New York for Muscular Dystrophy Association, and he was the keynote speaker, and we talked for a long time. And he had 4 kids, 4 boys, and 3 of them had passed away, and his 4th boy, was in the midst of fighting the battle against muscular dystrophy. And it just broke my heart. I have 4 kids, and to think of having 3 of them already passed away and watching a 4th go through that. And, you hear that story and you're like, anything I could do to help, I'm going to do, whether it's raising money, going to galas, doing golf tournaments, going to camp, volunteering at camp and being a part of it and trying to make anybody's life better that's fighting against this disease. And so, there's a lot of times where there's a lot of pain and hurt, and you just want to do anything you can to alleviate that pain and that hurt.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. And, if somebody that is listening to this maybe is looking for something to get involved in, I know so many of our members over the years, had this heart for charity, this heart for helping out, this heart for giving back to their community, but didn't always necessarily have a cause that really spoke to them. And I always tell them, if you're going to give to anything this month, give to the MDA, because the MDA, I know the people that are responsible for allocating funds, and I know what they're doing with the money. And so I trust this organization with my heart and my soul, so that anybody that trusts me can trust it through that affiliation. And so as you continue with the MDA, you see things like the Be Their Muscle event. How have you seen, or how do you think more individuals who maybe don't have a direct association to the MDA or something that had happened in their lives, and particularly, how can they get involved, whether on an individual basis, showing up for our event in St. Louis, our Be Their Muscle event here in April in St. Louis? What other ways have you seen, and would you encourage people to get involved?
Well, I kind of just talked about some of the ways. I mean, I live out in Arizona now, and every year they have a gala, and you can go to that gala, participate obviously in the live auctions and the silent auctions and donations. There's golf tournaments a couple a year out in Arizona that you can go to, and every state has all of their own events. Even volunteering at summer camp and being willing to go up there and help them in any way that they need on those volunteer days, and see it firsthand. I think with people go up there, rather than just going to a gala or a golf tournament where you really aren't interacting on a one-on-one personal level, when you go to summer camp, you certainly see that. But just engaging any way you can. First of all, understanding where the disease is. And you talked about using those dollars and using them so that they directly impact the people that they're supposed to. That's what Muscular Dystrophy Association does. And I agree with you. Like, I don't have any hesitancy giving money to MDA, because I know those dollars are going to translate into better lives for the people that are fighting against this disease. But you can see the progress that's been made. If you go back and you look, and hopefully Dr. Sharon can talk about this a little bit, and just talk about the progress that's been made through the dollars that have been given and all the research that's been done. It's been awesome. And there's a lot more to go. And so when you see all these different events, you can go, you can engage, you can give, and then you can know you're having an impact.
Well, Jay, you are a legend on the field and off the field, and we...
I don't know about that.
Well, hey, any kicker that scores 25 points in a single game, you got legendary status right there in itself. And hey, listen, we really appreciate you being here, taking time out of your day to be on the podcast with us. Did you guys have any questions that came to mind that you'd like to ask Jay before? Okay, Lily has one, Jay. I'm going to tee it up to Lily, and
all right, Lily.
She's going to fire away.
Hi, Jay. I love what you said about camp and how you've been involved for so long. So I have to ask, what's next for you and your involvement with the MDA?
That is a good question. I've wanted Lily to have my kids go to camp and to be counselors as they get older, and try to be involved. I'm doing the golf tournament coming up here and the gala in Arizona. And Lily, if you have any advice for me on how I should get more involved, I want you to tell me what I should do getting more involved. But I think when you can bring your family, like when I met my wife, Lily, we were at Michigan, and we were going to school at the University of Michigan, go Blue. And, one of the things, I wanted to see how she was going to react in that situation. I knew she had a heart like I did, but you want to see, like, before you get married, like, does she have the same kind of passion and love for people that you have? And so when I brought her to Muscular Dystrophy Camp, she was amazing as a counselor, and we had a blast together, and we always still kind of joke and laugh about a lot of the things that happen at camp, I'm sure, like you do, Lily. And that was really one of the reasons I said, okay, I know I want to marry this woman, because watching her at Muscular Dystrophy Camp and the way she interacted, I knew she was just such an amazing person. And so to me, there's been so many different ways, Lily, that I've been involved with it, and I'm open to many more.
Wow, I love that so much.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for your time. If you'd like to leave the group with anything, please do so. Otherwise, we're very grateful that you're here and sharing this love for the Muscular Dystrophy Association and really the outcomes we're after with the Burn Bootcamp podcast and Burn Nation.
No, just thank you so much. It's an honor to be on with everyone. I thank you for all that you're doing, from the doctors to the podcast, to bringing up, getting the word out, to raising money, to Lily being such a great representative as well. And I would just say, to everyone, continue to give that money, because that money is being used to directly make people's lives better, and keep up all you guys are doing. Thank you guys for the Be There Muscle campaign. Awesome campaign. I hope you raise that $1 million this year.
All right. Well, I know wherever you're at in the world, you can probably kick a football all the way to us in under the arches in St. Louis this year. So maybe we'll see you at a Be There Muscle event here in the future. Okay.
All right. Get after it.
Okay.
See you guys.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Wow, what an amazing guy to just be involved for one cause for so long. Literally that type of dedication. Mark, obviously, and maybe Mark, this is an appropriate time for you to intro and share your story a little bit. But what an amazing guy to dedicate himself to that after having a personal implications. His brother being in a wheelchair his whole life and him being able to feel that. Mark, you had already mentioned in your intro that you have a child who's now we know playing wheelchair basketball. Why don't you go in on that and tell us the reason why you're here?
Sure, absolutely. So my son was born with a neuromuscular disease called spinal muscular atrophy, SMA. It's a little bit different than muscular dystrophy, but in the kind of same family tree of genetic muscular diseases. So we've been involved with a separate organization that is similar to MDA, but is specific to SMA, and we know firsthand where these dollars go. And Jay touched on it. It's not just the research, which is big, and I can get more into it, but there's been a ton of progress for kids and adults with these neuromuscular diseases that all in the last 10, 15 years where there was no treatment. The diagnosis was, degenerative. They would get worse over time. And now we're seeing kids, diagnosed at birth, before birth, and taking these treatments. And in some cases, you can't even tell 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So we know firsthand where the money goes. And it's not just research, it's also real life impact, whether that's for a newly diagnosed family or putting on things like summer camps. We were fortunate to go to a summer camp in North Carolina this past summer called Victory Junction. It was built by the Petty Foundation, Kyle Petty and Richard Petty and family, and it's an amazing, just amazing complex. They have basically anything you would need as, someone in a wheelchair, whether it be medical equipment or accessibility. The kid can do anything, zip line, go on a boat. It just allows the kid to be a kid and have a genuine summer camp experience. So, I was really proud to be joining an organization like Burn that, puts this at the forefront. And I know firsthand how much impact it has. I'm just excited to be a part of it.
We always talk about, in our philosophy, community-based fitness. And, that kind of, it has a buzzword kind of association, right? Because community means everyone in the community. It doesn't mean just people who are maybe able-bodied, or it doesn't just mean people who we feel like including into our community. No, it's everyone in the community. And that's something that I'm taking seriously. And especially with our Burn On Demand product, want to do more and more and more of is create kind of, I would call it maybe like niche specific content for, kids. Lily and her parents came over to the house, and we were just talking about, how to, do whatever you possibly can to keep your muscles strong and do what you can. Let the research and the medicine run its course, but how do we stay strong in the meantime? Well, there's not a place you can go to for that, right? There's not really a place that anybody in the community can go to say, I have this super niche specific need with fitness. I can go to a fitness company to get some help and some guidance here. And we really want to be that because we believe that everyone in the community needs to, whether you're, disenfranchised for any reason, it doesn't really matter, right? We want to reach out and we want to pull you into the fold because you're a part of our community too. And so, yeah, this, and I also want to try wheelchair basketball with your son. That seems to be a very challenging and difficult sport to play. Have you had a game yet?
We haven't had a game yet. He's just been doing practices. We're only about a month and a half into it, but he loves it, and it's pretty crazy. I got a little skittish the first time I went to a practice. The kids, Jay said it, they're banging the wheelchairs into each other. I'm like, and he was a little bit standoffish at first, just worried, injuring himself or someone else. But very quickly they learned that, in that device, they're pretty indestructible, and then they start to push it.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
And we, as you guys are listening to the rest of the episode here, just know, if you can see on the bottom left hand of your screen, you have a QR code. That QR code is a donate now. Okay, you scan that, you'll go right to our website. You can donate right now. You can show up April 5th in St. Louis as well, because it's going down. It's going down. Are you ready for it? Are you ready, Tread?
I'm ready. I'm ready to see it.
Okay.
I did want to actually mention one thing. I want to ask you, Mark. I know I have a friend who has ALS, and I've been watching her on her Instagram kind of go through her story. But one thing she did mention was that there's MDA chapters in different cities, and when she travels, she can reach out to them, and they will bring wheelchairs to her or make things more accessible for her, which I didn't realize until I started following her on Instagram and seeing that. So I think that's super important to note too, just that you're helping people all throughout. Kind of navigate this throughout the country, and I think that's pretty awesome that every dollar goes towards that as well. So I don't know if you had experience with that too, but
yeah, absolutely. We've benefited from equipment pools, so they have a large pool of equipment. Maybe people outgrow a wheelchair or something like that. We had a trip up to Boston to see some friends, and we didn't really have the greatest wheelchair for my son. We had a very large power chair that is virtually impossible to travel with, or I'm worried about it losing functionality in the plane ride, or a manual chair, which is great, but he's confined to using it with his own strength. And we found an SMA family outside Boston that had an old kind of manual chair with a joystick and e-fix. You might know what that is, but and they were like, yeah, we're not using it anymore. It's in our garage. Why don't you guys pick it up? And we've since passed it on to another family. So it's, I think anyone with either people with these neuromuscular diseases or families, caretakers of people with the neuromuscular diseases, it's just a natural community. It brings you together. What they're going through to some degree. It's a natural network, and we're here to help. And I think that's pervasive, whether it be muscular dystrophy or something else. And we're all kind of band together.
Lily, any perspective or comments on that? Obviously, you've been around. And made a ton of friends in the net. So how do you see, to Mark's point, families taking advantage of the network?
Yeah, I love what you said about summer camp and having your son just be a regular kid. We can do everything, any activity imaginable. And it's not just that, but it's the feeling that no one's staring at your wheelchair. You don't have to answer any questions because everybody gets it. We all have different types of diseases and different equipment or needs, but we all get each other. So it's really magical, and I'm sure that your son just came back glowing, and just it's truly transformative for kids to have that experience.
Yeah, the years where we didn't do it here in this area because of the pandemic, I was sad, and I know kids were very sad. Yeah, because it is so fun. It is so fun. I think I've gone. I haven't been a counselor yet. I've only gone for the day. So I'll go and spend counselor for the day. My next step is to go be a counselor for the whole time, and I definitely will. And I think what Jay said is also cool, that you take my kids there too, and to be a part of that, and they realize, like, Lily, it's we were all kids, we know that you and maybe your friends, you're looked at a different way, and that doesn't feel good. And I want my children, who might not ever have that perspective of being looked at that way for some maybe disability, or not being able-bodied, whatever the situation, right? For whatever somebody would cast judgment on you, it's like that would never feel good. And to be in that environment so they can see that perspective too is really cool. And so I want us all to be camp counselors, run like a bunk ourselves or something.
Devin, I think that's beautiful.
That'd be cool.
I love what you're saying about community, and I love that able-bodied people and people in...
Is that the right term? I don't know if I'm using the right term.
You
Okay, I
can
don't know.
able-bodied, disabled, yeah.
Okay.
And people at Burn, they use their muscles to help ours. I think that juxtaposition is very beautiful and speaks to the fabric of our community. So thank you.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to bring in our next guest because Dr. Sharon, she is online, and we're going to get ready to ping her in. She is the CRO of MDA, 5 years running now, specializes in gene therapy. And she is, last year we had her on. If you want to go back and find that episode from last year, we can also link that in the show notes because we had a bunch of different conversation topics last year. And we're happy to welcome you back, Dr. Sharon. Dr. Sharon Hesterly, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Sharon.
Well, thank you. I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, absolutely. And last year you were in the building here sitting with us at Burn Studios, and we now have the capability to patch you in from all over the world. So we appreciate you being here. And I think all of our listeners out there who may not, let's kind of tap into the science behind this and get, you do such a beautiful job at making complex things simple for us people that don't understand all the science behind it. So can you just do us a favor and take us back to the baseline? What's muscular dystrophy? What is neuromuscular disease? And kind of what are the primary causes? Let's start there.
Yeah, sure. So anytime you want to physically move your body, there's actually a lot of complex biology that goes on behind the scenes to make that happen. So your brain has to send a message through your nerves down to your muscle. The muscle receives the message, and then it has to either contract or relax based on what you're trying to do. And there are hundreds and hundreds of genes that have to be active to make this happen. And so in neuromuscular disease, something has gone wrong in this whole pathway somewhere between the brain and the muscle. And the end result is you get muscle weakness. The problem can be in the nerves or it can be in the muscle, either one or both. And typically, almost all of the diseases that we cover at MDA are progressive. Not all of them, but a lot of them tend to get worse over time, which is particularly difficult to deal with because you sort of have a new normal that happens all the time. So muscular dystrophy in particular is a set of diseases that really affect the muscle, but they're all neuromuscular diseases. And together, there are almost 300 different forms that we cover.
And so up until this point, we haven't found a cure. And so, could you maybe update us in terms of what's the newest, latest, and greatest in terms of lifestyle? What can we do from a lifestyle perspective? Lily and I talked about using bands when she was at my house, attaching some bands to a pole in front of her and doing like some band work, and then update us on what. The uncontrollable, really, where you live in your world, and how's it going? How's it going? All this money and energy and effort that we've collectively been putting into this. I know things are happening, and I know it's good. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, well, so to start with your first question, from a lifestyle standpoint, there are a lot of things that people with neuromuscular diseases can do. Starting, first of all, with a good, healthy diet. Healthy, nutritious diet is particularly important, especially with a disease that leads to muscle wasting or loss of muscle. You want to make sure that you're giving your body all the components it needs to help keep that muscle healthy for as long as possible. And then there's some physical activity that you can do as well. Some of the muscular dystrophies, I think Jay mentioned Duchenne muscular dystrophy. In that particular case, the muscles are fragile. And as you exercise, it actually does damage that you can't repair. So in a disease like that, you wouldn't work out to try to rebuild the muscle, but you do things to maintain range of motion and make sure that your all of your tendons are still flexible. So there are still a lot of things that you can do. And some of the diseases that are different from Duchenne or some of the muscular dystrophies, light exercise is helpful. Myotonic dystrophy, for example, it's been shown that light exercise is really helpful. So there's a lot of physical things that you can do. But then I think your second question was really about what's happening now. And I can tell you this is the most exciting time in research for neuromuscular disease. In just the last 10 years, we've had 28 drugs approved, 3 for spinal muscular atrophy, and probably another one within a year, so 4 potentially. And these are drugs that can be sort of mixed and matched. And some of them have really dramatic benefits. So, the most severe form of spinal muscular atrophy was the leading cause of death, genetic death in infants. Until recently, that's actually changed because of these drugs. So, as Mark mentioned, now you have infants who might not have lived past age 2, who are walking and running and doing a lot of the things that, kids without spinal muscular atrophy can do. We have gene therapies now approved for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and we have a lot of gene therapies in testing for other diseases. So it's a really exciting time. We sort of hit critical mass of knowledge and technology, and all of these things have come together. And we're starting to see these really great drugs and approaches, but we still have a way to go.
So as people are listening to this and they're seeing our Donate Now QR code, and you can scan that at kind of any time here as we're going through the podcast to make that decision to donate to the MDA and help the Be Their Muscle campaign, obviously without that we aren't progressing as fast as we can. So two-part question. I like my two-part questions, by the way. It gives you space to just go. So what is the funding gap from where we are to where we want to be? And is it accelerating or decelerating? Is there a lot of urgency right now for people listening to fund because we really need it? Is the MDA getting, obviously always more money is better, more research is better, and so I know we hear that. But is there a fundamental funding gap? Are we really trying to close the gap somewhere?
Yeah, there really is some urgency this year in particular. I will say that we've received over 300 applications from investigators all over the world for funding. And we will have these all reviewed by their peers, and then we will rank them and draw a line. But we know that line's going to be higher than we want to draw it, that there's going to be really good research projects below the line that we want to fund because of the large number of applications we've received. So that is the gap. There will be a specific gap, and we're really hoping that we can raise some extra dollars so that we can fund all of the good research that we receive and that we have a potential to receive, because we don't always know where the next breakthrough is going to come from, and you'd hate for that to be the grant that didn't get funded.
Right. Yeah, right. It's almost like if you guys have ever seen those memes on Instagram where that's like you see like the person digging with the shovel, and they're digging and it shows like the gold right in front of them. If they just dug like 3 or 4 more times, they're going to get there, but they can't quite see it. It's like that. We just got to keep digging here, and we've got to keep providing funding to the MDA, because even in my 10-year history of really understanding neuromuscular disease, the clinical research around it, and the breakthroughs, it's accelerated year over year. It seems like it's getting in the more recent years. Maybe that's due to funding, maybe that's due to AI. I don't know, Dr. Sharon. Is that the case? And if so, why is that?
Yeah, the drug approvals have definitely accelerated. Like I said, just in the last 10 years, we've had so many. And I really think that that's a result of years and years of funding for these diseases, where maybe you don't see the progress, but things are happening. Our understanding is improving. More people are getting into the field, and all of that sort of hit its critical mass and has culminated now in these new drugs being approved. So we have a lot of momentum, but that means we also need more funding to make it happen. Like I mentioned, we cover over 300 neuromuscular diseases, and we don't have drugs for all of them, and we need better drugs even than the ones we have. So that's where the real need comes from.
Anybody on the panel in-house have anything for Dr. Sharon? Mark, you have a question?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Dr. Sharon, for your time, first of all. I think when I first started kind of researching the set of neuromuscular diseases, I am not a scientist or I'm a math nerd from my background. But one of my misconceptions was that, out of the 28 drugs that are now approved and countless more in the pipeline, that it was by and large funded by large, pharmaceutical or biotechnology type corporations. Can you just talk about the importance of kind of grassroots funding and funding, those individual grants at, the independent or research level?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, really, all of these drugs, almost all of them, if you go back far enough, they were originally conceived of by investigators in academic laboratories who benefited from grants, research grants from NIH, from MDA, from other organizations in the space. And so since, MDA, it's our 75th anniversary this year. And since our founding, we've funded over $1 billion worth of this research. So yes, these companies do have to come and step in and do the final development, and that is also an expensive process. But a lot of these things get started as research and laboratory grants, and they're risky and they're early days, and that's where the funding is really critical. And that's actually how we end up with these drugs that are approved. This is a great question.
And I have a follow-up, different question, but you mentioned combination, or you kind of loosely mentioned combination type of therapies or using drugs in tandem. So between all those trials that are going on, or different dosage levels, or the advancements of the gene therapy, if you could pick one thing you're most excited about kind of the future of research technology in this field, could you pick one or two?
Sure. And actually, the combination therapeutics is something I'm particularly excited about, because a lot of these drugs work in different ways. So if you have a pathway of different things that are going wrong and you can attack it from different angles, then you're going to get a better result overall. So our ability to combine drugs is something that's new. We didn't have drugs approved before. Now we're starting to have multiple drugs approved. So I think you're going to see a cocktail approach where we treat these diseases with multiple things at once. And that's something I'm really excited about. And also some of the newer technologies like gene editing, for example, where you can go in and actually change the chromosomal DNA and repair it or patch it in ways that make, the cells work better. So I think those are some exciting technologies. Still early days on gene editing, but I think it has a lot of potential.
Gene editing, wasn't there a machine called the CRISPR? Isn't that what it's called? The CRISPR?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is real quick for everybody? That's the gene editing machine, yes?
Right. So they say gene editing machinery, but CRISPR is actually a tiny little bacterial protein. That's your gene editing machine.
Okay. So it's not some giant quantum computing looking thing that just clones humans. Okay.
It's a microscopic machine that goes into your cells, and it's able to very precisely cut out places where you have a mutation and then patch it and repair it, allow the cell to patch it. Wow. So it's really cool technology.
That's intense. Last question for you, Dr. Sharon, and if you guys have any, Lindsay or Lily, please jump in. AI is obviously everything right now, and word on the streets is that when it comes to biology, AI is going to have some of the most immediate breakthroughs, big, real life-changing breakthroughs in the field of biology. Does that have a crossover here? Am I correct in assuming that?
Oh yeah, I think AI is going to impact so many different areas of biology. But just for example, one of the things that's really important is understanding what these proteins look like, these critical muscle nerve proteins. And we can, they're microscopic. You can't see them, but we need to understand what the structure looks like. And AI allows us to model statistically what the shape of these things will be. And when we know what the shape is, we can design drugs that fit into that shape, for example, when you want to interact with the protein. So that's just one example of the ways we can use artificial intelligence to just accelerate our ability to make new drugs.
Anything for Dr. Sharon from your end, guys?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, Dr. Sharon, thank you so much for being here. You are amazing. Everything that you do as the CRO for MDA and everything you've done and will do, thank you for being here and being a part of our broadcast today. And we're going to go out there and we're going to raise a ton of money for the MDA. We're going to break our record. Everybody's going to use that QR code to donate right now. And thank you for educating us around the science that is underneath what we're donating for. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, Lily. So, we're here and, we've heard from a scientist. We heard from an NFL kicker. They're all talking about you. You're the star of the show here. So we gotta bring it to you here. Lily is the newest MDA national ambassador, which is super cool. I thought it was global at first because, there's not a global ambassador?
No.
Maybe we're just going to make you the first global ambassador. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
Okay, I
like
think we can do that. At the age of 4, and you're going to tell your story
Yes.
a little bit from here, but Lily was diagnosed with CMT. So start there, Lily. Tell us your background, kind of from that diagnosis all the way till today and how we met, and just tell us your background.
Yeah, so I was a normal toddler. I was not diagnosed with birth, which is often the case. I started walking normally, and I was keeping up with all of my milestones until around age 4, I started becoming clumsy. And my parents were concerned. I have a twin brother, so they saw him and they saw me, and I was tripping and I was falling. And eventually my feet started to turn in, and the doctors said, well, this looks like club foot. But we were like, what is causing this? No one knew for a while. We had to go to countless specialists, and I was misdiagnosed with scary things until finally we went to an MDA care center in Charlotte. And from there, my amazing neurologist referred us to another MDA care center in Iowa. That's where I was diagnosed with Charcot-Marie-Tooth, CMT, type 1E, and HNPP, which is hereditary neuropathy with liability to pressure palsy. It's a mouthful.
That's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words.
I know.
Okay.
I don't know how I memorized that as a kid, but I did. So 1E is very rare. CMT is already rare. About 1 in 2,500 people have it. So you probably know someone who has it, or you know someone who knows someone. So it's rare, but it's here. I've had a couple of people at my school that have family members, or they themselves have it. So it's not unheard of. But my type 1E is incredibly rare. It's less than 1% of the CMT population. And then I have another gene mutation with the HNPP, which makes me ultra rare. So we got all this information when I was 4, and we were sent home. There's nothing you can do for CMT except for light exercise, like we've talked about. And, I went to physical therapy, I had surgeries to improve my function, but it's something you just have to live with. You have to learn how to live with this progressive disease, and it's difficult. So that led me to get involved with MDA. I went to MDA summer camp when I was 8 years old, and from there, I haven't stopped being involved. It was there that I first did an interview at 8 years old, and that's kind of where I learned how to advocate for myself, and I learned about the importance of donors. I didn't understand how much camp costs to send a kid. I remember asking my mom one day, I thought it was free or that parents paid, but she told me the number, and it was less 10 years ago. But still, I was like, wow, people are donating this much money to send kids to camp. They may have heard, oh, camp is the best week of these kids' lives, it's life-changing, but they don't really know what that feels like until it's them, their child, or they are a counselor. So that's where I kind of got involved with advocacy, and I started speaking at that age to doctors or at muscle events with the MDA. And then my involvement never stopped. I've been an ambassador for years, and I've just done blogs and miscellaneous projects, and now I'm national ambassador. So it's quite a full circle moment, as I like to say, where I started getting diagnosed at MDA Care Center, and now I get to represent them on this scale. So I'm feeling incredibly grateful. I started my term in January, and it's already been amazing. And I've gotten to do some cool things and talk to some amazing people. So I'm grateful. And I'm grateful to be back, my 3rd year on this campaign. And I love Burn Boot Camp. I'm always wearing the merch. I have my Yeti. So I'm always talking to people about it and the impact that you guys have. So thank you.
Well, it's no wonder they selected you to be the national MDA ambassador, because you're so creative and talented. And it's obvious. I don't have to gas you up, because people can just hear that when you talk. And she's 17, by the way. And one thing, you were saying that you were just somewhere with Dr. Sharon not too long ago, correct?
Yes, last week we were in Dallas for MDA's Clinical and Scientific Conference. So once a year, clinicians, scientists, researchers, we all come together, and we have meetings, and there's a lot of collaboration too. So I think that's the biggest thing, right? We have all of these people who focus on different diseases, but they can find crossover. And that is one of the biggest messages of the MDA is community and connectivity. So yes, we were together last weekend. It was very successful and just amazing to see all of these incredibly smart people. I'm glad that they know what's going on with the diseases. They try to explain it to me, and I'm just like, I'm so glad that you know that, and I'll stay on the patient side. But it's so incredible to partner with them and to have everyone under one roof.
Yeah, and I got a text message from your father who sent me a picture of you speaking in front of like a bunch of neuroscientists.
It's true.
And I'm like, I'm sitting there, and a little tear came to my eye because I'm sitting there and speak, like laying down game in front of these people. Like I almost like saw my kids doing that in some way, like to just see like how this has helped you. The MDA has given you a platform, to be a leader, and leadership's a choice, and you decided to take a hold of that. But nonetheless, the platform is there, and you walk with such optimism and positivity that it has to be infectious for the kids that you're interacting with. And now that you're at don't you get to age out of camp soon, or has that already happened?
It already happened.
When does that happen? So kids get to go, they get to start when, and they get to go through the whole ranks. You get to be a junior camper and then a senior camper, and then can't you at some point like be an assistant camp counselor for a year, and then there's
I don't think we have CITs, but yeah, so you can start at 8. It used to be 6, and so it took me a while to be convinced. I wouldn't go until I was 8 years old, which is such a regret of mine because I loved it so much, and so I wish I had more years. So yeah, starting at 8, and I believe it goes to 17. But the involvement doesn't stop there. You can become an ambassador, and you still have these friendships. I have friends that I met when I was 8 years old that I still talk to, which is crazy. So yeah, the involvement does not end, and then you can see about how you can help out with camp. So the community, it's there forever.
Mm-hmm. What is interesting question here for you? What is one thing, now that you're in the position recently with your appointment as national ambassador, what's one thing that you wish more people understood about kids with neuromuscular disease?
I wish people understood that while we need support in some ways, medically, there's a psychological aspect to living with a neurodegenerative disease, as you can imagine. Like Dr. Hester Lee said, we constantly have a new normal. So there's that part of it, but people with neuromuscular disease and everyone in the disability community, we're creative and we're intelligent, and we have so much joy within each other and within ourselves. So I want people to understand that they can support us, and we need money and we need doctors especially, but also we are capable and we are here to stay and here to be heard. So I wish some people knew that in a lot of ways we're like everybody else.
I love that. That's beautiful. Hey guys, any questions for Lily? Because Lily, she doesn't have a governor on. Okay, she'll tell you exactly how it is. You guys have any questions for her?
Yeah, I do. First off, you speak beautifully as a 17-year-old girl.
Thank you.
I am super impressed, and it's awesome that you're the ambassador for the MDA. I'm curious, what does that look like for you over the next year? Are there going to be big events that you're going to be going to? How does that look?
Yeah, so there's some travel involved, speaking at different fundraisers, engaging with donors, and a lot of it too is engaging with people with neuromuscular disease, which is something that I have loved forever. Mm-hmm. So that's truly something that makes my soul light up, and it makes it feel like everything's going to be okay. Like, we have each other, we have this intimate understanding of each other's experiences. So it's been really fantastic to be able to have the platform that I do, speak at events, and engage with fundraisers and patients. So I'm very excited for the year to come.
We're going to bring in Grace, okay? So Grace is a junior at St. Louis University studying bioethics. And, she's really advocating for a more accessible world, which we thought was very noble of her. And she's also been an MDA at summer camp 3 times, an MDA ambassador. most of her life, and a member at Burn Manchester, which we will be there April 5th in your area, Grace, to throw down at the Burn Boot Camp Be Their Muscle event brought to you by the MDA. All right, so I can't wait to see you there. But today we get to patch you in virtually. Grace, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Welcome to the show. So why don't you just elaborate on your intro that I gave a little bit there, add some color to that, and then we got some questions for you.
Yeah, I have been involved with MDA ever since I can really remember. Similar to Lily, I was a camper. Similar to Lily, I didn't go to camp the first year that I could, and I regret it. And this partnership is really just like so cool to me because my family is super involved in Burn. My mom is a BA, my brother-in-law is a trainer. A lot of my family friends are trainers. So it's just been very cool to kind of grow up around Burn. And it's actually funny how we kind of figured out. My mom joined as a member back in 2018. And one day at the gym, they were just like doing announcements. She was a newer member and they were like, oh yeah, we do this Be Their Muscle campaign. And my mom was like, wait, like I know MDA, like I'm an MDA parent. And the trainer was like, no, like, are you sure? And my mom was like, yeah. So it was this kind of, this like I am where I'm supposed to be moment for my mom. And that's when she kind of started diving into Burn more. I have spoken at the Be Their Muscle campaign in St. Louis since 2018, pretty much. Every single year I've shared my story. My mom has shared her story a lot of times as a parent. And then now being a member, it's just so special. I've been a member. I say that I've been a member seriously since this past July. I have come and gone when there have been events, or I would go with my mom sometimes randomly, but I really dove in this past summer, and it's just been so incredible to watch myself like build strength, which is not necessarily something that I am used to. I had my MDA Care Clinic check in the fall, and this was the first year ever since being diagnosed that I built strength, because that just doesn't happen with my disease usually. So I very much so do like the people at Burn who have offered modifications, adaptations to workouts that make it work for my body, which is just so special.
Yes, that's incredible. Congratulations on that. I like to see that strength go up. We always say it's about what you gain, not about what you lose. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. So April 5th is the event. Is it buzzing or what? Like what's going? Yeah. What's the word on the streets?
We're so excited. Yeah, it's been promoted a lot at all of our gyms, of course. But it was very exciting to hear that y'all were coming. And that St. Louis was going to be your big city this year. We always have a huge turnout. We always have a really a rowdy crowd that's ready to cheer and give their all. And it's just so special because I see all my friends from camp every year at the Burn MDA event because people come out as MDA ambassadors and share their stories. So it's really awesome. And for a lot of years, I sat or stood with my friends on the sideline. And my family would go do the workout, and we would cheer them on. We would do all this. And like, it was last year that I was like, I feel like I could do this. I could do some of these things. So I just like threw myself in and started doing the workout. And it was awesome to have like my friends from camp cheer me on. And it's just so special and so beautiful that, that crossover is there. And I'm so excited for y'all to come on April 5th.
Yeah, us too, for sure. And, we're excited to move together. And speaking of movement, what does movement mean to you? And as you are adapting your workouts to fit, the circumstances, talk to us about that. What's that like?
Yeah. So, ever since I really even like started Burn, I've never been quiet about my disability. Everyone at Burn has known that I have my disability. So there are some times that a trainer will explain a explain an exercise and I just go to the other side of the room and start doing something else. That's pretty common. So I usually get checked in on. And it's really those times in focus meetings where trainers will recommend different workouts for things that I am not able to do at the time. It's also something where my body is different every day I walk in that gym. So there are some days I walk in and I'm like, I got this. I can do push-ups. I'm gonna try jumping up on the ledge today. I'm gonna try that. Like, there are some days that I'm like that, and there are some days that I walk in and I am lucky to be moving my body. And I think it's really interesting because I remember my very first focus meeting and that kind of goal setting that we do at Burn. And my goal was to maintain strength. And the trainer that I was talking to, also a family friend, was like, I think that we could build some strength too. And I was like, no, my muscles like don't really do that. And she knew about my disease. She had actually looked it up before our meeting just to be more educated on it. So it's putting in that extra effort to help out and assist those members that do need some extra help sometimes. And obviously I'm an example of someone with a chronic disability, but there's also members who tear their ACL or are pregnant and just need different modifications. So it's awesome that it's worked into the framework of Burn. I don't feel othered. I just feel like I am someone who is taking that modification sometimes, which the person next to me does sometimes too.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's. I mean, we all come with our own situations, and our trainers are supposed to meet us exactly where we're at. And I'm so glad that you're having that experience and that Burn Bootcamp has impacted you in that way. If you could have maybe, and then I'll maybe kick it to you guys if you have anything for Grace before she jumps off. My last question for you, Grace, is if you had one piece of advice to others with neuromuscular conditions, or, I mean, I guess you could really say, any conditions that would maybe cause them to be hesitant toward working out physically. What would you say? What would be your advice?
Yeah, I would say one thing is like communication with your doctors. I like, my doctor is very supportive of me trying a workout class like this. I asked her about it first and was just kind of like, give me some pros cons type thing. And she really just said, listen to my body, because that is where my disease is at right now. And I do recognize that as a luxury. Not everybody is at that point in disease progression or in their specific disability. So what I'll say is listen to your doctors, but at the same time, listen to your body and push yourself, because you are stronger than you think you are. I could not imagine even a year ago feeling the way that I feel. It's really special to be able to walk for a longer time than I was able to in the past, or lift heavier things. And I talk about this a lot, but it's not about lifting the heaviest weight in the room or doing the fastest burpees or anything like that. But it's about me getting out there and moving my body. And that's what I recommend to anyone who's just ready for a change or ready to try something new in their disease. You can feel locked. And I felt locked for a lot of years and just assumed that it was downhill. And especially when Lily kind of talked to this, but those scary things that your doctors say at times. I mean, when I was 9 years old, my doctor told me by the time I was 20 that we would be looking at wheelchairs. I am 21 and we are not looking at wheelchairs whatsoever at this point in my disease progression. So that's a scary thing to start thinking about as a child. And some of my best friends are wheelchair users, and we joke and we have fun, but it is something that is psychologically scary and different as your disease progresses. So if I can stay with my current braces, if I can stay with my current mobility devices, and not continue progression as much as I can, I will always do that. So overall, just push yourself, because you are stronger than you think you are.
Well, really beautifully said, Grace. If anybody has anything internally, go ahead, Lily.
Hi, Grace. I loved hearing your story.
Lily.
I'm so impressed, and I'm so glad to hear that you're gaining strength. And I'm curious. We know that living with a progressive disease is difficult mentally. So how has getting that news from your doctor, Grace, you gained strength, how has that changed your relationship with your body?
I left this doctor's appointment, and usually I leave my MDA care clinic appointments like I'm fine. I usually found out I lost a little bit of strength, that I progressed a little bit, I might need braces, things like that. But it's never been good news since I was 9, pretty much. It's always just been steady news. So I left this doctor's appointment, and I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I gained strength. And she's like, yeah, you're working out, you're putting in you're putting in a lot of effort. This makes sense. And I was like, no, Mom, I've never gained strength. And she was like, yeah, but you're putting in the effort. And it was something that that I think I didn't see in myself, but I was building muscle along the way, and the people around me saw it. My mom was like, yeah, if you look at pictures of you from this time to this time, you look more toned, you look stronger. And I was like, no. And then you look back, and sometimes you need that reflection, you need someone to say it to you of you're doing well. And I think I just needed that validation of those numbers in my doctor's appointment, to really feel strong and really feel like I was making a difference in my body, which is just so special. And Lily, I have CMT as well.
Oh my gosh.
You understand as well. Yeah, I have 1A, but it affects pretty much the same way as 1E. So it is a place, Burn Boot Camp can be a place for people like us if we communicate our needs, and we just really talk with the trainers. And obviously y'all have been doing that there with the bands and stuff. Communicating our needs, I think, is the biggest thing that I have learned the most working out in a group fitness gym like Burn. And it's something that I didn't need to do before in physical therapy quite as much, because my physical therapist would just usually hold me back and say, oh, let's not do that today. That might be a little bit too much. But in Burn, they're ready to push you, but they're ready to push you to where you still feel comfortable, which is just so beautiful.
I have one question real quick. I just, you talked about the impact of the workouts on your overall journey, but the community is one of the biggest parts and my favorite parts about Burn Boot Camp. Can you talk a little bit about how the community has lifted you up or kind of pushed you in this during your journey with muscular dystrophy?
Yeah. So obviously I started out as, my mom's name is Anne. I started out as Anne's daughter who spoke at MDA events. So everyone, when I started working out there, everyone pretty much knew that I had a neuromuscular disease, which also was kind of comforting to me, because I still get a little bit nervous when there's partner workouts or when there's something we need to do with somebody else, because I do go slower. So it's really special that I have now felt comfortable, and I've learned to advocate for myself and just let my partner know, hey, just, I go a little bit slower on these. We did push up high fives this morning even.
Yeah.
And
we
just
did.
told my
and
partner.
My arms are still hurting from those.
My arms are sore.
Sure.
My arms are really sore. But I communicated to my partner. I was like, hey, when you do 2, I'm going to do 1 this round. That kind of thing. Just to communicate my need. And the community is always there to cheer me on. Obviously y'all know, at the end of a workout, we ask for call outs. What were you proud of today? And there was one day maybe a week or 2 ago, we were doing power rolls, and everybody's doing power rolls on the soft floor, off the floor, flat. And it was my first time doing a power roll off the ledge without a weight in my hand. And I shared it, and the gym still went crazy. So they're ready to cheer you on for anything, which is just so special about our community.
Grace, thank you so much for being here and being a part of not only Burn Boot Camp, but of being an ambassador for the MDA. And we can't wait to see you here come April 5th under the arch.
Very excited.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. Well, that's thinking of that story. That was an incredible story, by the way, and it's so nice to get to put a face to the name. In Flower Mound, Texas, we wrote about this in the Burn Boot Camp book. There's a member named Drew, and Drew, I'm not sure, Lily, maybe you'd know if rheumatoid is chronic rheumatoid arthritis. That's not neuromuscular. That's more like joint specific, right? So he has rheumatoid arthritis, and it's chronic. And he never does the same workout as anybody in the gym, but feels just as a part of the community, right? Drew knows that he goes over to like Drew's Corner, and he'll have like a special setup, and he doesn't think anything of it, right? And that's just how it should be. So anybody out there who is in need of community and some physical fitness, come on into Burn, because I don't care what your situation is. We're going to make you feel like you're right at home.
I love that she was just as impacted by the community as the workouts.
Yeah, that was a great question. I'm glad that you asked that. Well, we have a handful of minutes here, and I want to round this out, Mark, by you going deeper into your story, and then Lindsay, being a franchise partner, seeing you not only a franchise partner, but everybody should know a dear friend and an amazing trainer, and you've been here since like essentially the beginning, is close really as anybody can be to the beginning at this point. And I want to kind of hear your reaction from some of this, just like from a franchise partner lens and what this means to you from a business owner's lens. But Mark, as the VP of Finance for Burn HQ, you live right here in Charlotte. We've known each other for a long time. I think I've been semi-recruiting Mark, or he's been semi-recruiting me. You're probably a little bit of both for a while. And we're so happy to have you on here at our leadership team. And so why don't you just talk a little bit more about, Henry and SMA and, what it's like as a father of a child with neuromuscular disease, and as a busy professional, how you navigate those challenges and the victories, that come with being a caretaker for somebody that really needs you. Also, really, performing at a extremely high level in your personal and professional life. And talk to us about all of that.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. I think, well, first of all, being a parent, period, is difficult. I think once you have kids, if you're blessed to have kids, you might think back on your time growing up and give some kudos to your own parents if you're in that situation. So, Mom, if you happen to watch this, thank you very much for all you did, for sure. I know I was not the easiest child. But listen, I think, being a parent to Henry has been amazing. It's been everything I've, kind of always ever dreamed of. I think the perspective changed a little bit, whether that be where I'm spending and focusing my time and spending effort, to wanting to be a part of Burn Boot Camp professionally, because number one, I believe in the mission. People like Lily or Henry, you heard her talk. She's eloquent, and it's very clear this is not a cognitive disease, and Henry's the same way. He can keep up with anyone, twice or more than his age. But they're going to need some things, for me and him specifically. He'll need, me to be his muscle in some ways, and his mother. So I think just, wanting to align with an organization that, had that as their core mission. I really believe what we're doing as a business is important. It's not just dollars and cents. I think we're impacting people's lives, and whether that's just on an individual level or you're helping an entire family, I'm really proud to be there, be here. But just, having Henry and with SMA, I think it's focused a little bit more on what's important, and that's, having time for family. When I allocate my time to my profession, which I give a lot to, I'm all in, I'm all there, and I'm not going to do it in a any half type of way. I'm going to give it my all, and likewise when I'm home, I want to be there and I want to be present. I want to be able to go to all the events and the wheelchair basketball practices that are an hour away from the office and all the things like that. So I think it's just helped me gain a lot of needed perspective. Not say that I wish the circumstances were different, but the way life works, I've learned, is you don't always get, the hand that you want. You're dealt the hand that you're given, and it's random, and you have to kind of just roll with the punches and make the best of it. And I'm lucky that Henry personally, he makes the best every day. He makes it a lot easier. He's just great positive attitude. You could tell from Grace and Lily, the people that are affected by the neuromuscular diseases, by and large, have the best attitude.
Well, I tell people all the time, if you want to be around the happiest people, go to MDA summer camp.
Yep.
True.
It's not only the happiest people inherently, and then they're in an environment in which that facilitates that. It's an amazing place to be.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, Mark, when you think about the future, the two things light you up in our conversations the most, I would say. Number one, it's your family, but in particularly when it comes down to the advancements and any treatments of the neuromuscular disease, you're very hands-on and focused on that, on the cutting edge of knowing what's going on at all times. And so you also, as a parent, you get to see, the effects of what people who come around to cause and donate their hard-earned money to. You get to see the effects firsthand of what that can do for some of the advancements. So can you connect those dots for us and just relay those people who are on the edge, who are looking at that QR code right now and I don't know if I want to scan that this month? It'll put them over the edge. This is going to do it right here.
Well, I hope so. It's big shoes to fill. No, listen, when we got Henry's diagnosis back in 2017, there was an FDA-approved treatment, but if you went and you Googled SMA and just kind of looked at the headlines, there was no AI summary at that point, but it was, hey, this is the #1 genetic cause of death for infants. And, everything said your child is probably going to die early and it's going to be, degenerative and worse, which is, awful news to get as a parent, and really having no frame of reference for the advancements of treatment if there ever was going to be any. So now fast forward, 8 years later or so, 7 years later, and there's, 3 or 4 FDA approved treatments. There's another 20 in the pipeline. It's just super exciting. And it's great because I think also about the kids who are unborn that will eventually have this disease. There's, it's statistical, it's going to happen. 1 in 20 people has a recessive gene trait, and if 2 of those people get together, they have a 1 in 4 chance of having a kid with SMA, so it's about 1 in 10,000. Well, now, just recently, a couple years ago, all 50 states have newborn screening for the mother for SMA. Before, you didn't know until the kid came out and exhibited some sort of traits that, kind of set you on the path to figure out a diagnosis. Now, you can know when the kid is, not even born yet, and you could set up treatment with gene therapy or whatever it is, 2 weeks after they're born. And in some cases, you don't even notice much of a difference between a, quote, normal kid and one with SMA or another neuromuscular disease. So it's super exciting. These treatments are also very, very expensive. He's on a treatment every 4 months that is $125,000 a pop. Thankfully, and the gene therapy, I think, is a $3 million one-time shot. So, I might be a little off on those numbers, but it's very close to that. So, not only does the donation go to supporting, further grants and research for even better treatment, you're helping the family in some other way to be able to afford the treatment just in general.
So, Lindsay, as you hear that, multi-unit Burn Boot Camp franchise partner, 8 years running. I mean, you sit on the franchise advisory council. You've seen every thread of this business since we've started. When you're able to hear from Grace and Lily and Mark's perspective, what does that mean to you as a franchise partner, and why is it so? Why you were the spearhead to the National Mall event last year, where we're going to the Arches this year in St. Louis. Last year, we went right in your backyard there in DC and did this event. Why is it so important to you and the gym's mission to lean into MDA so heavily?
Well, we talked about it a little bit earlier. The community of Burn Boot Camp is what makes Burn special. And I've known Mark for a little while now, and I had no idea about his son at all. And you just realize that there are so many people in your community that need this kind of help, that need extra support, that are trying to, that have children like Mark or like Lily or Grace. And to give back and to be philanthropic is super important in supporting that community that you want to be a part of. It's not just about what happens in your four walls. It's the impact you make, in DC or across the country, globally. So it's really important for us as franchise partners to focus on that impact, because the people in your community for sure need help. And it brings your team together. It brings your gym together when we are all giving back to a cause. Camaraderie is the word that comes to mind. It's really important for us when we can move our bodies to give back to a cause that supports people that can't quite move their bodies yet.
So there's been a lot of Be Their Muscle events. I think we're going on. The marketing team's gonna hate me that I don't know the exact number. I believe 10. It's 8 or it's 10 or 8 or something.
There's a lot.
9. Okay, 9. Thanks, Jordan. Okay, so it goes back. I'll just give you a quick little history, and then I'm going to ask you what your most memorable moment is, Lindsay. But from the Naples, Florida gas station that I told you guys I found out about this opportunity from, and then there's a gazebo outside of the original Cornelius facility we did our very first Be Their Muscle event at. I think we raised like $25,000, which we were pumped about at the time.
Yep.
And then we did it to Queen City University down in Uptown Charlotte, then North Mecklenburg Park here in North Charlotte. Then we decentralized the next year. Every gym now was going to do one together, and we had and then we did that for 2 years, and then last year was the first national event, which was at the Washington Mall, the National Mall, and this year will be at St. Louis. And so through all that, we've raised millions of dollars, and obviously I've gotten to know Lily very well, and the Sanders family. Also, rest in peace, Tyler Allen, Brenda Allen. Tyler had Duchenne's. He ended up passing away this last year. Bryson Foster, who do you guys know Bryson Foster?
Oh,
Sanders?
yeah.
Bryson?
Oh, yeah. We went to camp together.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'll tell you my favorite memory so far from the MDA events, and then maybe you can share one of yours, Tread.
Sure.
But Bryson Foster, if anybody knows Bryson or remembers him from any of our content, if you just listen to him on a microphone, him and Lily have something in common. They both have a very unique gift to have a voice on a mic. So he sounds like a 1990s sports announcer.
True.
He's so good at it, right? And he went to UNC Charlotte and started calling some games and was involved in their whole sports broadcasting piece of it. And Lily's doing podcasts and all this stuff that she's doing. Well, the very first year that we did it at every gym, Bryson's in a wheelchair and he's not getting out of the wheelchair, right? So. But as you mentioned, cognitively sharp as could be, sharp as a tack, gets on the mic and does the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, the Bulls anthem kind of intro. He does that at the beginning of camp for one of our trainers at the Lake Norman gym. It actually was downstairs here is the Huntersville gym, and he did it. And now the starting lineup, and he did the whole thing, and it was so cool. It was one of my favorite moments. And then that whole camp, he was just on one. I would be like, hey, there's Treadway over there. Tell Treadway she needs to go deeper on her push-ups, and she's being soft. And he'd be like, Treadway, stop being soft. Go deeper on your push-ups. And I'll never forget that moment in which him and I kind of 1-2 punched the camp. But any incredible memories from Be Their Muscle thus far, Tread?
Yeah, there have been a lot of events. I specifically remember one when I had only 2 children, and you did a group workout down in South Charlotte. I liked that one a lot because it was the biggest event that I've ever been to so far for the MDA. But I would say, of course, my favorite one is going to be the one this past year in DC. We had 700 people come out and work out. Devin was the trainer, and it was awesome. Just 14 different gyms were represented, but not just the gyms that were represented, people just walking in off the streets in the malls of DC just to come work out with us and donate to the MDA. And then after the event, Stephanie spoke on behalf of the MDA for us, and it was just really impactful. And just to see a huge community of people come together for one purpose was probably my favorite memory so far.
All right, so Linz, you get to give the last call to action to donate today. All right, so if you're telling your members at your gym, given them a call to action to donate. Let's go ahead and do that now. And then Lily, I'm going to let you take us out, okay? And what all this means to you, and we'll wrap it up 2 claps on 2, okay? Here you go, Tread.
All right. Well, you have heard from some amazing people today and the impact that you can have on the MDA. And right now, on the bottom of your screen, there is a QR code that you can scan down there, right there. You can scan and donate to the MDA to help be their muscle for children that are going to summer camp. And you've heard how special that is to Lily. And so just make sure that you are donating. It's super important that we do so.
All right, Lily, wrap us up.
All right. Thank you all for watching till the end. You're amazing. Be our muscle this year and next year and the year after. Use your money to help kids live their best lives. Like we've heard, we are some of the most brilliant and beautiful people, and it's important that we are given all of the opportunities that we are meant to have. You can help a kid have their best week of the year now. Scan that QR code.
You heard her. We'll see you in St. Louis for April 5th, or at any of your gyms in the entire country for the Be Their Muscle event. Thank you guys for being here. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.